victory and the agony of defeat.
Madison, great ball around the corner, Petticini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, knocked away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold this!
Hello and welcome back to a preview edition of the Tip Sheet podcast. As always, I'm your host, John, also known as 4020, joining me to break down all of the action in just 3 grades this week. It's the NRL, the NRLW, and the Harvey Norman Women's Premiership. The Flegg and the Cup are on the bye. Global buys in those competitions, but it's my good mate, Sixties. Big fella, only 3 games on the docket this week, but still plenty of football to talk about. The Parramatta Eels, they're at home with the ladies, going to Eric Tweedale. It's a doubleheader out there, but on the road to Brisbane on Friday night to take on the Broncos, and of course, something to plug there for us very shortly in terms of the watch party. But before we do talk football, how is it hanging on your end today, mate?
Tried to keep reasonably busy, John, with football today. I've tried to make it a football day as much as I possibly can. We got the column out, the bumpers up, and thank you to everyone who's already read that or commented on that. It was there's certainly plenty to talk about on the football front with the Eels. Some interesting decisions, some good stuff around the women's team, and John, you mentioned about something to plug. We've got our watch party on Friday night. Now, people might be viewing this on a Friday, this podcast. We're recording it Wednesday, late Wednesday.
It'll be up on Thursday. If you do catch it on Friday, you got a very small window to turn around and get at the Sterlos Para Leagues.
Yes. So we'll be there Friday in Sterlos from 7 p.m. We've got the free platters of finger food that we put out about 7:30. Got our preview. There'll be some giveaways as well. The club's got obviously the game on the big screen, plus they've made available their beer of the month for $5 in there in Sterlos. So I've had lots of people message and say they'll see me there on Friday, which is fantastic. We're really looking forward to just catching up with lots of people and seeing people maybe meet for the first time, all those members of the Cumberland Throw community, Eels supporters, just a chance to get together, be able to say good day, watch the match as a group of supporters and hopefully cheer the Eels to victory. And John, I spoke about the Eels community, and I just want to quickly say a thanks to the Eels. When I got home from the hospital today, they had a bit of a care hamper waiting for me. So thank you to the Eels. It's put a bit of a smile on my face today to see that. And as I said, it's the community of supporters, the club, the league's club. Had plenty of people just checking in. And
we bicker about selections and recruitment and which way the club's going, but the Blue and Gold community know how to pull together to help one of their brothers or sisters out.
Yeah. And, mums love the Eels. And I think I've said before, she didn't always feel that way about rugby league because
she grew into it. Yep.
When she grew into it, because she married Dad when she was 17, not quite 18, and Dad was still playing football, and Dad played A grade in the Parramatta district up until he was about 26, 27, when he got a cartilage injury and wasn't able to continue playing after that. But she always used to see football as taking Dad away from her. So she wasn't partial to it when she was younger. And when I say take football away from her, obviously there's the playing, the training, going to the pub,
the social stuff. Yeah, exactly.
And then of course going to Cumberland,
then the Parramatta Eels. Yeah, exactly.
But then football eventually and going to the Eels became more of a family thing when when the three sons came along, and we, as a family, we would go to Cumberland. As a family, we had season tickets to Parramatta Stadium from the time that it was opened, and Mum and Dad continued to go until it just became too difficult for Dad with his health. Mum was perhaps the most fanatical out of all of us. Well, she certainly was the most superstitious, John. If she was looked through the binoculars at the game and something good happened with Parramatta, she'd keep the binoculars to her eyes for the rest of the game. As challenging as that may have been, she was so superstitious. She'd wear the same clothes to games, like same routines. And yeah, she just loved Parramatta and just fell in love with rugby league as a whole. Like our routines on a Friday afternoon, when they used to show the Schoolboys Cup on Channel 10 on a Friday afternoon, we had our routines all around that. It used to be the afternoon where there'd just be something frozen that would be stuck in the oven, because she was going to sit there and enjoy watching the Schoolboys game. And yeah, as I said, she just fell in love with rugby league. So for someone who didn't start off terribly passionate about it, she certainly became that. And as I think I've said, 3 days before this horrible condition struck Mum down, she was at Kellyville with me watching the lower grades. And yeah, it's a bit shocking to think that we're at the point that we are right now. It's just, yeah, it's been devastating, to be honest. But let's get on with talking some footy, John, because footy is the great distraction in times like this. And we have got a lot to talk about, even though there's only the 3 games. Shout out to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta. And, of course, to the home of the Eels, Parramatta Leagues Club. And, again, we'll be there Friday night. And you'll find us there, of course, on home games, delivering our preview in Sterlos. And, John, also, mate, I want to give you another thank you for how you're holding the fort together during these times. And I wrote in my column today, you seem to have that sixth sense of when to call and when not to call as a mate, when to check in, when not to check in. And I've really appreciated that over these last couple of months, mate. It's meant a lot.
Oh, I can't say it's been my pleasure, mate, but it's certainly been an honour to be able to be of assistance to you and to TCT. And yeah, I thank you for the thanks too. It's having gone through, obviously not something similar, but having lost my mum recently too. There is, like you sort of mentioned, there is it's like a push and pull, isn't there? There's like space that you need and also space that you need to be taken up at times as well. So, like I said, it's been an honour helping you out, mate, and we'll continue to do so. And again, thank you to everyone that has reached out to both myself and especially to Craig in this time. Like I said, the Blue and Gold community knows how to pull together to help its brothers and sisters. And yeah, like I said, we bicker and we argue and we butt each other's heads about certain things when it comes to football, because that's how everyone is so passionate about the game, fans and fanatics. But when it comes to the real issues, everyone knows how to go shoulder to shoulder.
Yep, absolutely. So, John, we're going to kick things off with looking at the Harvey Norman.
Correct. Yes, we start with the chronologically final game of the weekend. This is out at Eric Tweedale Stadium, part of a doubleheader on Sunday. Eels in round 4, their first home game in either the Harvey Normans or the NRLW this year. They get dealt some really weird schedules, Craig. Really, really weird schedules. Coming off their first start win, though, they had 2 really tough losses. They now host the Newcastle Knights, top of the ladder in the competition, undefeated 3-0. But it must be said that the other team that's undefeated is the Illawarra Steelers, and the Eels took them within 5 minutes being either a draw or beaten. So Parramatta, they could be in the within touching distance of Newcastle here. And the team that they've got this week with a couple of changes. We start at fullback, and this is a player that you're plugging on the news podcast, Ella Carlisle. New recruit, doing some really good things at fullback. She has the one on her back naturally given that role. Paige Knapp and Caitlin Pearden, pathways by there, are on the wings. Josie Lenaz and Kiana Takarangi in the centres. What has looked to be the primary or first choice halves combination continues in Matisse Bettridge and Elias Sufan. Sufan is another Tarshigal graduate, Craig, very talented young half. Expecting big things from her down the road, but right now plying her trade and doing a good job in reserve grade here. In the front row, and look, the forward pack is just chock full of pathways prospects and young talents. Taylor Falanico and Amani Ava'e are your bookends. Chelsea Makura is the second-year Harvey Norman Women's Premiership dummy half. And then in the back row, Jessica Kennedy is another new face, and I believe the captain of his team, with Fontaine Tafua, another blue-chip young talent on the edge. Ashley Pottinger is the dummy half/lock utility who was in the 13 this game. Then we go to the bench. Ava Jones is the dummy half utility on the interchange. Collier Gray, Alana O'Loughlin, and Matosha Kalepo round out an all Tasha Gale interchange bench there, Craig. So it's a very young team, a very inexperienced team, but a very talented team. And green shoots has really been the theme for the Parramatta Eels this year, Craig. And this team absolutely typifies that sort of energy, that sort of ideal. It's a young team. It's a team that is growing, both individually and as a collective. Coming off that first win they had this season after 2 narrow losses against the Cronulla Sharks and the Illawarra Steelers, knocked over Mounties last week by 4 points, have a chance to, I suppose, assert momentum from the competition frontrunners and bank a consecutive win for the first time this season out of Eric Tweedale on their first home game of the season.
Yeah, you spoke about growing individually and as a collective, and I think that's going to be the key to this team, John. Collectively, there are combinations that are there from time spent together and with a number of these players in the Tasha Gale team this year. And there are some players who I believe will feature in future NRLW teams for the Eels that are running around in this team. It's when you think that they've got, I'm just looking at this lineup today. There's there's about 6 or 7 there that would still be teenagers that I'm aware of in that team. So it's, as you say, it's a very young team. There isn't the equivalent of a Jersey Flegg competition that the girls can travel through on their way to senior football. It's essentially from going from Tasha Gale,
taking that big step to senior football.
Harvey Norman, in senior football. So, John, how they'll travel this week? You know what? I don't want to tip wins or losses with this team. I think I just want to sit back and watch them, as you say, develop throughout the season, and just enjoy the ride from that perspective. They're actually the second match of the day.
Yes.
It's
on
Sunday.
Reverse scheduled Eric Tweedale, the NRLW actually curtain raise as the main event, which we've seen a couple of times in recent weeks actually with that reverse schedule for whatever reason.
Obviously
for the NRLW, it's the TV broadcast in the context of the NRL games that follow it in a later time slot on Sunday. But I will say this: I think it's the first time in a month since the competition started that they stand alone, not running against the New South Wales Cup, not running against the NRLW. So we all have a chance to sit down and actually catch them on Bar TV, which would be really nice. If you're not out there at Eric Tweedale, that is, of course.
I'm going to try to get out there for at least one of these games, John. I just like to be at a game this week. So.
And of course, with the Eels up in Brisbane for the NRL game, and we are obviously having the watch party, which we're massively looking forward to. But there is a difference between having a great time for watch party and also being out at the game too. So, like you said, this can be your weekly live game fix. Get out there for one or both games out at Eric Tweedale. And of course, we say both games because in the NRLW, the Parramatta Eels open the day at 12 o'clock p.m., same stadium, taking on the same team. Well, same franchise, different team. Newcastle Knights come to town to take on the Parramatta Eels. 2 very good lineups here. Eels coming off really a breakthrough, not even a breakthrough because Steve Giles did fantastic things with the team last year, Craig, but a breakthrough win in the context of the club's history. Most points scored, highest individual point scorer with Rachel Pearson at dummy half, at halfback. A host of rookies stepping up and delivering there. And they take on a Newcastle team that looks like this. At fullback, you got Botil Vetti Welsh. They've got Sheridan Gallagher and Tess Staines former Parramatta Eel there, I believe, there on the wing. Shanice Parker and Tanika Wilson are in the centres. Georgia Roche and Jessie Southwell are their halves pairing. In the front row, Taylor Prebedon and Tiana Davison are the front rowers of Olivia Higgins at dummy half. Eva McEwen and Yasmin Clydesdale are on the edges with Kayla Romanuik at lock forward. Then on the interchange, it's Jules Kirkpatrick, Simone Carpani, Sienna Yo, and Grace Kukutai. Extended roster, Evie Jones, Lillian White, Jolie Morris, Vienna Tinau, and Keely Simpson. Do we have an official for this game? Not on the Parramatta Eels portal. I'll probably have to go to the NRL portal to see that one there. But while I'm hunting that one down, Craig, I'll go through the Parramatta Eels lineup with an unchanged 17, as we alluded to in the news podcast. All the misfortunes of the Parramatta Eels in the NRL are thankfully not being fully replicated for the NRLW right now, although they do have an extensive injury list of their own. But this week, that means that Abby Church will reprise her role at fullback. Zoe Faye and Martha Matteoli are on the wings. The outstanding Rory Owen at left centre with the powerhouse Lindsay Tui at right centre. Then you've got Cassie Toahiku and Rachel Pearson in the halves. Moving into the front row now, we've got Elsie Albert, Ruben Charrington, and Brianna Eels. Then we go to the back row, and on the edges, it's your girl Chloe Jackson, the captain Mahali Murphy, who made a triumphant return last week. Big inclusion there for the Eels against the Raiders. Equally big here against Newcastle. Then the young gun Riverly Arlaw, the rookie who keeps getting better and better week on week. Then we go to the interchange where it's Tanika Todd Hunter as the dummy half utility. New face Paige Travis will be the edge back rower in reserve. Tess McWilliams, another young gun there who had a breakthrough try against the Raiders. And Fleur Jin as the backline utility. So Steve Georgiou choosing to take the forward utility in Tanika Todd Hunter and then the back utility in Fleur Jin week on week now. Then we go to the extended roster. It's Rosemary Beckett, Ruby Jean Kennard Ellis, Jessica Kennedy, Yasmin Baker, and Chelsea McKira. And in the meantime, I have pulled up the NRL portal. And for this game, we have no official referees yet. No official officials. So we have to stay tuned on that one. That might be a function of how they pull up after Friday and Saturday, Craig.
Could be, John. Just a question for you. Sienna Yo, was she the Yo that was going through the steel system?
That was the Yo that we saw that carved the Parramatta Eels up in the pathways a few years back, yes. I believe.
Yeah. She looked like a player absolutely destined for NRLW. It's interesting that hasn't been through the Dragons, but now, and I can't remember whether she did play NRLW for the Dragons, but it's interesting to see her there at the Knights because she was certainly a young talent coming through in the pathways.
What year was it we saw her? Was it 2020? I'm going to have a quick gander at this while we talk. I am curious because there it is here, the Steelers, I believe. Team lists, was she? Yeah. In what year did they pick here? Was it 2022? It was, 2023. The finals week 1, we took on the Steelers at Campbelltown. We lost 20-4. She doesn't feature on the scorer sheet, but she carved us up on the day at halfback. She had a huge game.
Yeah, cousin of...
that was our understanding. Cousin of Isaiah,
Yeah. So one for the Eels to keep an eye on there. And we're simply saying that from our experience in seeing her absolutely carve in a game against the Eels, and it was that level of dominance that made us go, who is that? Note the name, obviously see the family relation, and then it's stuck in the brain. Follow where she ends up going in rugby league because there was a lot of talent on show that particular day. John, what can you say about the Newcastle Knights? They've performed well, going back to back as premiers there up until the 2 years before last year, I think it was. Last year, of course, being the Roosters taking home the title, but are they the same force without Tamika Upton in the team?
Look, they've had the eyes picked out of them. Obviously, Upton is the most high-profile and recent recruit too that they've lost. But then Millie Boyle has also departed the club. Another big loss for the Nova Castrians. And to their credit, they've been pretty good this year, Craig. First start loss against the Bulldogs, but they bounced back with wins against the Cowboys and the Warriors, both by double digits, 20 points against North Queensland and 16 points against the Warriors. So they've done a good job stabilising. I don't think that they are the force that they have been for so long, because they were allegories to Penrith, right? Their rise came at the same time as the Penrith uprising in the NRL brackets and space, and they were equally dominant. And it was kind of like, well, how do you beat them? It was kind of teams were left scrambling to try and figure out how do you put the lid on Tamika Upton? How do you stop young Southwell? How do you, Millie Boyle, how do you put a blanket on her through the middle because she's so dominant? And unfortunately, market forces have pulled them apart and have forced them into a retooling. And again, they've done a very good job here. Botil Vedi Welsh has landed there after heading back to the West Tigers from us. And they've found a few young players. Obviously, Jesse Southwell is a great build-around in the halves. But they've got good players still. Taylor Prebedon, Yasmin Clydesdale, Eva McEwen's another talented young player. The sister of Jermaine, I believe it is, Craig. Jermaine McEwen, a talented back rower in the Newcastle male side of things. So they've done a good job just developing and recruiting and finding value. But there is no doubt that while they're going to be ultra competitive with the Parramatta Eels this week, that you don't look at them and say, wow, how do the Eels find a way to match up with them like we have in the past?
Yeah. And my concern was always that capacity for Upton to unleash.
Oh, you keep her quiet for 40, 50 minutes, and then just in a 5-10 minute window, she'd break the line 3 times, and the game gets taken away from you. She would always get hers. Still is. I'm talking about her in the past. She's still playing. Just a phenomenal player, great instinct for the flow of the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's look at the Eels. I was writing about it in the Bumpers Up column today, John. And I said I could literally rattle off all the names in the 17 and provide reason for praise for their performances. Like we did in the news podcast, I singled out the young players that have risen from Tasha Gale this year directly into an NRLW debut, River Lee and, of course, Tess. That, like, if you find the equivalent of that in the NRL, it's like someone finishes playing in the SG Ball and the next game of football is an NRL debut. That's literally what you're looking at as an equivalent. So no stepping stone on the way, just go straight to the top grade from age football. And they've done that and have been, it's not even just a matter of have they coped with it. They're actually shining.
They're thriving. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Look, it's not unprecedented because you do see meteoric rises from players on both the male and female spectrums of NRL and NRLW development. But to have 2 forwards, and it's not just backs or and look, obviously halves is the most demanding position, but the physical demand of playing in the front row and obviously Rivers' case lock forward, which is pretty much parallel to being a front rower with some extra ball playing responsibilities. The way they've hit the ground running is phenomenal. They've gotten better week on week, and like I said, you can probably count them on a single hand, Craig, the amount of players that can claim that they're taking Simone Taufa for a ride to score a try. Alongside them, River busting through the middle and setting up Rachel Pearson for the critical 18. What will give her the 18-point individual tally. So just both of them doing phenomenal things. There's a couple more girls in the wings waiting. We've mentioned Fontaine Tafua before. She is right up there with those two in Tess and Riverlea is that kind of talent, but she's a year younger. So, she's got plenty of time to be developed.
She's got plenty of time, yeah.
No need to rush
mention, she scored, what was it, an 85-metre try in the
grand final. If you're listening to the podcast, go to newsouthwalesrugby.com, nswrl.com.au. Make sure the .au is there because I made that mistake in the Instant Reaction podcast. It's just a blank domain. Go to .au, go find the Tash Gale grand final highlights and go see that try. Just Herculean effort deep into the game to just put an absolute ribbon on a fantastic team performance, on a stellar individual performance.
Yeah. So, John, last week was really a case of finally the attack found a bit of rhythm, found a bit of cohesion. It wasn't there in the trials. They won with a lot of defensive grit against the Sharks in round one. They were slipping and sliding everywhere in round two against the Warriors, and it compounded the clunkiness of their attack. They just couldn't register a single point against the Warriors. But then that game against the Raiders, a lot of it came together. The kicking game was as pinpoint as you'd want it to be. The support play, the kick chase, a lot of the 1%ers were found in a way that they were lost with the previous week. It was a great team performance that also carried some tremendous individual performances. So many records that fell in that game. But when you look at individual performances there, you know that Parramatta has maybe not quite in the Tamika Upton category of being able to be a match winner, a momentum changer, but they're not far off some of the players in the Eels team. It's arguable that Rachel Pearson is probably playing the best football of her career.
Yeah, I don't think that's arguable, Craig. Just
Yep.
The balance between her run, pass, and kick has never been better. And
Yep.
you know, she's not the most explosive runner of the ball, but she's catching teams out with her willingness to tackle on the line, and they're really struggling. And it opens up the passing channels and the kicking lanes too. So really good stuff from Rachel Pearson.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, John, is being quick between the ears. If you're quick between the ears,
the process,
that gives you that little head start.
Yeah. We've mentioned, you know, there's been players in the past that are, you know, just the one that always comes to mind is it Jason Smith, who you know, played. You talk about slowing the game down and playing at your own pace. Looked like he was walking at times, and he would just pick apart teams, like you said, with the ability to process up here faster than the opposition. And Rachel Pearson is, you know, entering that territory where her experience and her ability to look at what is being shown to her by the defense and then take a good option is giving her an advantage that makes up for a lack of look, she's not an athlete, but just relative to some of the outstanding athletes in the NRLW, she hasn't got the pace, but is still finding ways to be a step ahead.
You know, Jason Smith didn't mind the old cancer sticks that he'd puff away on. You could have almost imagined him. If the game was being played out on a bush paddock somewhere. Oh,
if he was allowed to smoke on the game, he just pull. About the set of scrum, he just like break out the crumple up the pack and just bang one out and then light it up. Yeah.
Or going over the sideline, have a swig, hold my beer, literally the hold my beer moment. That was the sort of that was. You talk about playing the game at his pace. That was certainly it. And yes, we're seeing elements of that with Rachel Pearson. I was so glad to see Cassie Toihiku really look like she backed herself a lot more last week, and I want to see more of that. We know we're seeing Rory Owen isn't going to have a second-year syndrome at all. Like, she's just picked up where she left off last year.
Well, we talked about the Rachel Pearson and Jason Smith parallels there. It's the opposite for Rory Owen, isn't it? Just a pure athlete, pure footballer, you know, kind of like that Xavier Coates mold. Just someone that you give them the football and say, hey, go do something special. And they do it. Mind you,
and it's good.
She's getting some pretty good support from Zoe Fay.
Yes. Good to see Lindsay Tui coming into this season healthy. I think last year she got
broken jaw, New South Wales 19s, came back and then got dinged up again. I can't remember what the second injury was, but it was a very rough year for her last year. She's come back and she looks strong, Craig. Like she's been very busy in the off season, making sure she can be as powerful and as strong as possible. And we've seen her with limited opportunities right now. Not to say she hasn't had opportunities, but you know, the ball hasn't really gone to her as much as it could have, and that's because the Eels have had success elsewhere. But I think she's going to have a big game soon, and you know, she's been good otherwise.
almost flown under the radar coming into this season as a result. You touched on the wingers, Zali Faye and Martha Matteelli. Zali showed us those aerial skills last week, and Martha, with her debut try, produced what I think we've been expecting to see from her, where it's just near impossibility for an opponent to stop her when she's close to the line. Whether she becomes the female equivalent of of some of our favourite Eels wingers that we've had in recent years, John, could there be a chant for Martha that goes up on the from the crowd?
We could get there. We could get there if she continues to be a real menace near the goal line. I think that there will be a chant that goes up, especially if we can get her to Combank on a good day. But look, just great to see her finally settle down, Craig. Had a few moments under the high ball in the opening 2 rounds, and obviously that trip to Newcastle, to New Zealand, didn't help any of the Parramatta Eels. They all had a miserable day out there. Also Martha in that collection. And it was just good to see her get some opportunities to get downhill and do, like you said, what she was brought here to do, and be a bulldozer near the goal line. And I think, again, that right edge, as they get more opportunities, because I do think that Parramatta's left edge is their primary attacking edge. You have Rory Owen and Zali Faye out that side, and I think their blend of just pure speed in the case of Rory, and then Zali's ability to high point the ball, give the Eels the most attacking options. But you go to that right edge, and I do think that they will get their opportunities in the coming weeks. And when they do, and they settle into a rhythm, they're going to be very, very potent.
Oh, absolutely. And when you're talking about the edge players there, you got Mahalia Murphy on that left side, and you got Chloe Jackson on the right. So they've got the outside backs have certainly got players on the inside that are going to cause some havoc there. John, who wins this game? What sort of margin, and our usual tips of first try scorer and best on field?
I do have some concerns about the Eels maybe coming back a little bit down after the highs of that game against Canberra. So I am going to temper my expectations a little bit in that regard. But if they can get a handle on sort of normalising or stabilising after that big win against the Raiders last week, and they can get back to business for their first home game of the season, I do hope that they are pumped up for their first home game of the season. I think that they can win solidly. Newcastle, as we alluded to earlier, missing some of their superstars of years gone by, but still a very talented team. I would take a 10-point win here, Craig. I think that would be a very solid outcome. If the Eels can prevail something in the vicinity of 24-14, 26-16, I think that is a very good win. If they do that, and they do it with first try scorer being, she set one up last week. Let's go Rivaliala. We'll go with the rookie getting over first, and then best on field for the Eels being, let's go for building again, Cassie Toihiku, coming out of that game against Canberra, where she looked, as we mentioned on the news podcast, far more decisive, far more in control of her attacking repertoire, and I'm hoping that she can go from there to another level again this week.
Yeah, like you, John, I'm going to be cautious in my tipping. I'll take the Eels to win this something in the vicinity of 24-14, something like that. First try scorer, I'm tempted with Ruben Cherrington after that sneak try that she pinched.
That's a good call.
She's really started the season confidently this year. Another who missed out on a chunk of last year due to injury, and we're not going to see her sister Kennedy until halfway through this season. So it's meant that Ruben has had to carry the Cherrington name and fame into this season, and she's doing a fine job with that. So I was tempted to go with her with first try scorer. You know what? I'm going to go with Abby Church instead. She's
Old Faithful.
Well, look, yeah, it's not a stretch to think that she's going to trouble the defence, because her leg speed will bring about those sorts of opportunities. The way she's
primed for a big
in.
game too, Abby.
Yeah,
she's been very close. She's primed for a big one.
Yeah, I mean, she's not the New South Wales State of Origin fullback without cause. I mean, it's actually quite a rise from her, where last year we were thinking, when is she going to get the recognition that she deserves? And bang crash wallop, she has this great season and gets the New South Wales custodian role before this season even kicks off. So that's testimony to how the rugby league world has sat up and taken notice of her. So I'll tip her as first try scorer, and I'll double that up by saying that she'll end up being best on field.
Nice. Good stuff.
So there we go. And now this takes us to the NRL game, which is Friday night. It's the first match of this weekend for the Eels. It'll be the subject of the TCT watch party in Parramatta Leagues Club. See you all there, of course. John, I'll get you to run through the respective teams.
Yeah, the Broncos, who are in a pretty good run of form right now, they host the Parramatta Eels on Friday night. Reece Walsh is their fullback. They've got Josiah Karapani on one wing, Jesse Arthur's on the other. Katoni Staggs inking that new deal with the Broncos not too long ago is at right centre, I believe, with Gavin Shibasaki, subject of the big free agency push, Craig. Been a very popular man. He's at the other centre position. Ezra Mam is partnering Adam Reynolds in the halves. In the front row, you've got the outstanding young talent of Xavier Willison in the number 8, partnering the premier front row of the game in Payne Haas. It's a very good combination there for the Broncos. Ben Hunt has reverted to dummy half since Ezra Mam returned from his suspension and will continue to do his work there in the number 9. Brendan Piakura and Jordan Ricky are the edge back rowers. Paddy Carrigan is the 13. Then on the interchange, Billy Walters, who's done pretty well for himself this year, honestly. The number 14, Kobe Hetherington, Corey Jensen, and Jack Koszowski round out their rotation. Tyson Smoothy, Dean Mariner, Selwyn Cobbo, clearly out of favour there at Redcliffe after inking a deal with the Dolphins. I say Redcliffe. It's, I suppose, the confusion now, isn't it? You got the Dolphins and then the Broncos out of Redcliffe. But yes, he's going to the Dolphins and is no longer part of their top setup. And then Ben Tolte and Jaden Hunt round out their extra options if Coach Maguire would so choose to use them ahead of game day. And then for the Parramatta Eels, Craig, they've got changes this week. We spoke about them on Tuesday night, but we'll go through them again. At fullback, replacing the injured Isaiah Iongi, it's Josh Papali. Eels dead set, cursed. But we get to see Josh with the 1 on his back after playing in the 6th last week. Zach Lomax will work on the right sideline, Josh Adokar the left. Will Penasini returns from his 3-game suspension for a dangerous throw to work with Zach Lomax down that right edge. Sean Russell has won out the battle for left centre over Bowie Simonson and will work with the Fox down the left side. Dean Hawkins is the big winner out of Josh Papali moving to fullback, Craig. He works with Mitchell Moses in the halves, so the Eels get a superstar back but lose a budding star in the same game. In the front row, Jermaine Hopgood will turn out in the front row for the second game straight after having probably his best game of the season against Canberra in the same capacity. Junior Barlaw has been named the play despite that eye injury. Riley Smith is the frontline dummy half. On the edges is Charlie Geimer and Jack Williams. Dylan Walker starting lock forward. And then on the bench, perhaps the best configuration of the bench we've seen this year, Talon Da Silva, the dummy half utility. Luca Moretti coming back into the team after getting through that rehab game against the Canberra Raiders in New South Wales Cup last week. He's joined by Matt Dury and then Sam Tuivasa to round out Parramatta's rotation. Dan Keir, Jordan Samrani, Bowie Simonson, Tony Mattaielli, and Dylan Brown. Good old Dylan Brown. The man that is getting all the headlines for all the selection reasons, I guess, rounds out Parramatta's TLT 22. And then, obviously, the officials for this game, Todd Smith. And then in the box, it is Ashley Klein. Yeah, well, I don't think you can get in that referee/senior review official slots, I don't think you can get a selection that does not elicit that groan or wince or...
Yeah, John, let's press on with this without touching on the officials. I've had my say on it again in the
yes, in the blog. Yep.
Showed had the video photographic evidence of the stuff ups with this. It's the last couple of weeks, the hip drop on Gideon, the Adokar being tackled in the air, and then you reflect back on how Bailey Simonson, they found a mid-air tackle when he was being crushed underneath a Mulatalo against the Sharks. And you just go, how is this possible? All these things that were missed as it happened live, and everyone in the stadium seemed to see it live. Plenty of people at home saw it live. It's missed by every official, and then missed on review. How do you miss these things, John? In all honesty, how do you miss them? It's that's where
if I speak, big trouble.
You go scratch your head.
Yeah, let me go full Jose Mourinho on you, mate. If I speak, big trouble.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll push that. I said we're not going to touch on it. I've said too much. It's the Broncos are finding form. They remain a talent-stacked lineup. You only have to look at that, and you look at the blokes that have played Origin. You look at the blokes that are have been in good form this season, and I think you have to say that they match up more than positively against our Eels lineup in this one. Like you have to be brutally honest with this, because it feels like we're hemorrhaging strike players, and if we get one back, we know we're going to lose one or two just to balance it out, and that's exactly what's happened with no Isaiah Iongi, no Gideon Katonga, and if you're talking about a back and a forward that were providing the most punch, the greatest threat in the Eels team, both of those fill that bill in the back end of the season. In contrast, we're getting Mitch Moses back. He's going to be a bit rusty. Plus, he's got combinations of players that he hasn't played alongside. He's got no history with Dean Hawkins. He's got no history with Joash Papali. It's a big ask for. I mean, we've got an inexperienced. We had an inexperienced spine before. It's still relatively inexperienced. It's really even Dean Hawkins, as far as NRL games is concerned. Has he hit 20 NRL games as yet? I think he's if he has, he's only just gone past that mark this season.
23. So yeah.
23. Yeah. I knew it wasn't a huge number. So whilst people might see that he's been around for a little while, and they use when his South debut was, which I'm guessing was maybe about 3 years ago, something like that, off the top of my head. But in terms of NRL experience, he's still a relative novice. When you're talking about 23 games, it's less than a season's worth of experience as an NRL player. So we've got Riley Smith, who's a relative novice. You've got Talon De Silva, who's a rising player. Who knows? He might go on and become an Origin player. We don't know. But we've got a lot of inexperience still within the team. In some respects, we don't play like that, like they are. In other respects, we do. So what I mean by that is, I think we play a fearless brand of football where we're prepared to throw caution to the wind. And at the same time, it is low percentage rugby league as well. And we make a lot of errors like an inexperienced team. So it's, as I said, it's like we are reflective of inexperience in those errors, but unlike it in that I think we approach our play with confidence and that willingness to chance our hand, and it creates opportunities, but we're not icing those opportunities because of errors. And it may be that there's one pass too many that's thrown. It may be that we don't always execute as well as we possibly could in throwing the pass that's basically the money ball, and it just doesn't quite happen. A couple of times last week, we just didn't maybe back up as well as we should have, where the breaks were made and there just wasn't the support, or the player that made the break wasn't looking in the right places for where the support was coming from. So I think we're creating the opportunities, John. And I think the key to this game is how many of them we actually make good use of.
Yeah, there's no doubt that the Eels are really asking some fantastic questions of their opposition. It's been well over 2 months, going all the way back to perhaps that Cronulla game that you mentioned with Bailey Simonson, where I think the turnaround started to happen, round 10, and moving forwards from there. The Eels have played some great football, haven't got the wins. 5 wins on the season, obviously not great, but that's been in part due to the things that you've spoken about, an inability to just completely seal the deal when it comes to making a line break here and there. Those things add up, and then they defend so well for the vast majority of the game, but then fall apart later in the contest against some of the better teams in the game. And
yeah, we should clarify that as well, because last year we saw the team fall apart in the latter part of the game, and that was an area of concern for Jason Riles and his coaches when they came in, because they looked at that and they've gone, the Eels are by far the worst defending team in like the last 20 minutes of games. Yeah. By far the worst defending team in the NRL. And this year, as you said, John, I think they've made vast improvements to the defence. And whilst there's points that are being conceded late in the game, it's different to last year. Last year, they were just opening up at will.
Yes.
This year, you can see that the players are still busting a gut, but they've been in circumstances where they've just been hammered without the ball for extended periods of time. And when you think about how they've defended for periods in the first half, like they should have gone against the Panthers, they should have gone to halftime 12-6 up. They should have been awarded the penalty for the tackle on Gideon Katonga, taken the 2 points from in front, gone to the sheds at 12-6 up. Instead, they went to the sheds at 12-10 down after that late run of crazy calls and the Panthers scoring a try after the siren at halftime. And then, of course, weight of possession just kept coming and coming and coming in the second half, and Eels errors, and then it ends up being that the score gets away from them a little. And then against the Raiders, well, we saw, what was it, 3 tries in the last 10 minutes or so.
Yes.
And again, it was a case of the possession rate was ridiculous in that second half. No calls going their way. 5-1 in the penalties. It was either 4-0 or 5-0 with the 6 again, depending on where you get your stats from. And I haven't been bothered to go through and count it on the tape myself. But when your count is 1 and the other team's count is 9 or 10 combined, you know which way the calls have gone in a particular day.
Yeah.
And that's like the way they were. And when you get so many extra sets, it means you're making that many extra tackles. The team is getting effectively a break a lot more than what you are. And I think the flow of the points just ended up happening late in the game. So, John, I'm not as concerned about our defence. I think the one thing we probably need to tidy up is that both Zach Lomax and Josh Addo-Carr haven't quite trusted their inside man.
Yep.
And they jammed at times where maybe they just didn't need to jam and conceded tries. And for all the efforts of those 2 players that deserve just praise upon praise, the Fox and Lomax, just that little bit of tweaking with their decision-making could come in handy. And don't get me wrong, John, because the Foxes actually made some very, very good calls with the jams that he's made and shut down what looked like try-scoring opportunities happen. But we've still conceded 2 or 3 tries a game where maybe better decision-making by the wingers might not have resulted in a try being scored. So, yeah,
I agree. That was something that I raised earlier this week as well. Like you said, it's not to take a piss on either of those players because they've been so good for us this year. I mean, Lomax and Adakar have been huge recruits, massive additions to the club, big building blocks moving forwards. But again, they're not above reproach, and that is one area where I think they have hurt themselves a little bit, is lacking and not willing to allow their interior man to make the mistake. They've been in man-to-man 2-on-2 situations, and it is okay if Bowie Simonson or Sean Russell or Will Penasini, if he's back from, if he's not suspended or whatever in that context of this discussion, for them to make the missed tackle and give up the one-on-one instead of creating the free passing lane to the flanker. So, yeah, that is something I would like to see them tidy up. One thing I do want to praise the boys for, and it is sort of tangential to what we're just talking about, the intensity, Craig. They've been, I know that they gave up the first 2 tries against Canberra, but the aggression and the intent and the physicality were all there in the first half. And it's, when you're taking on the big dogs of the competition, like the Canberra Raiders, like the Penrith Panthers, you need to be angry. You need to be physical and violent. And I think that the boys have really taken to the task of some intent and some just sheer want to. Like they could have, they're 5 wins on the season, mate. Like they don't have to be playing hard right now. They would not be the first team that is down the bottom of the ladder to roll up, belly up like the Titans and a couple other teams that we've seen recently, and obviously Parramatta in the past. But they have not given up on the game plan. They have not given up on the messaging of the coach. They're out there putting their bodies on the line. They're out there being angry, like in the right kinds of way, like not just being recklessly angry like an idiot, but they're out there playing with some aggression, and that's what I want to see against Brisbane again. I think that needs to be a building block for the boys. What they're doing is good. They're not seeing the results right now in terms of the wins and losses, but they are doing. This is the process, and if they continue to stick to this process, they will see the gains next year. So I really like what they've been doing. Like obviously defensively, there's some guys like Joe Ash that got found out last week. That is part of being welcome to first grade, mate. Like regardless if he's playing fullback or front line, that's just a welcome to first grade moment. Canberra Raiders have so many great tackle busters. They went after him, got after him really well. Brisbane going to be the same too. They're going to, obviously he's playing fullback, but they're going to be looking to get guys like Katoni Staggs up against him, against the back rowers in Ricky and Piakura as well. So I'm more than happy to take all these lumps. I'm really liking what the macro vision of the team is. It sucks that we're not anywhere near full strength this week. I mean, just losing Isaiah Iongi is such a gut blow. And I am excited to see Josh at fullback, Craig. I know there's been the whole, is he a 5'8", is he a fullback and whatnot. I'm still completely on board with the idea that he can be our 5'8", for at least we can find out if he's our 5'8" from the big picture. I do think that he'll be opened up and freed up a bit this week with both the return of Mitchell Moses and being kicked out to fullback, where he gets more time and space to operate in, and the defensive workload's a little bit less intense. So I am hopeful that we can see some great stuff from Josh in that regard. But yeah, just I look at that team and I see guys that are starting to step up to the plate and take their opportunities. Charlie Geimer, we've mentioned Luca Meridian, Matt Doherty, and Sam Tulvite in the past. Talon Da Silva is really warming to his role as a Parramatta Eel now. He's not overplaying his hand, but he's looking sharp at a dummy half. Will Penasini comes back in this week. He's got a big matchup against Gehama Shibasaki. So, Will was threatening to be back in good form before the dangerous throw charge, mate. That was his best game of the season. And then got done in. And I'm not saying he shouldn't have been suspended, but then, again, something that we've broached before, the severity of the suspension does not match up with stuff that we've seen. Gideon Katonga got rubbed out for 2 months, and his culprit got done for 1 week. Make it make sense.
You want to start me up again, don't you?
Exactly. I'm trying to rev you up here, but we're seeing. I know people keep saying green shoots and all the hashtag potential, but we are seeing it. We're seeing guys embracing the vision of Jason Riles, and it's still flawed and it's still not the full concept here, because that's why we're not winning these games. And perhaps your roster can still be augmented a little bit too with another elite addition, as we've spoken about in the news podcast for multiple weeks running. In fact, it's like the single biggest topic among people that watch and listen and interact with us on the podcast is, who are we going to recruit? And that's where our messaging has been about getting an elite add-on to the forward pack. But in saying that, there are guys that are responding right now across the park, across the board. And yeah, I'm just hoping. Obviously, you want to win against Brisbane on Friday night, but if they can continue to play the way they've been playing for the last 2.5 months now, then I will be I'll be frustrated if we lose, but I can understand because it is about the process and not the results right now. Next year, it's going to be equal parts process and results because you need to get those wins and be competitive for the finals. But Jason Riles, he is a man of convictions, and I do have to tip my hat to him. What he is doing, rookie coaches don't usually have the balls to do, mate. It's not easy to take the risk that he is taking to be as pragmatic as he is being. And I think I look at this team list, and again, pragmatism drips through it, and really keen to see what some of the returning faces can do with Mitchell Moses and Will Penasini, how Joash goes at fullback, how Charlie Geimer builds on that right edge. There's a lot of reasons to look at this team this week and say, we've been kicked in the nuts again. You know, Isaiah Iongi gone for the season. Sucks. But Papali, Lomax, Penasini, Addo Carr, Hopgood, can he continue his turnaround? Riley Smith, Junior Barlow, Charlie Geimer, Jack Williams, Dylan Walker, and then the entire bench rotation. There's a lot of reasons to be optimistic that we can be competitive against Brisbane. So, John, how do we win? How do the Eels get the win against the Broncos? You say the course, mate. That has been, again, the process. We go back to these buzzwords. What the Eels are doing week on week, opponent on opponent, it is like a tactical, I suppose, or it's like a matchup. We don't care who we're playing. Our football can take anyone. When we hold on to the ball, when we make our tackles, the brand of football we play, we can ask huge questions of the reigning premiers. We can ask huge questions of the biggest contenders or the contenders to be in the Canberra Raiders. The way that Riles and Brown and Moa and Wisemantle and everyone else there, not just the primary coaches, but everyone else that has been facilitating the strategic layer of how we approach these games, we're playing great football. We play a really frustrating blend of in phase and out of phase, structure and unstructured football, where we can attack from a lot of different angles and ask really difficult questions that you have to answer. And the biggest handbrake on that has been pulling the trigger on the passes at the wrong times. That is more than anything, more than handling errors. It has been offloads and passes that have been either picked off or found the wrong man at the wrong time. And as we get the nuance and the feel for those better under the hood, I think that, I really look at that and say we are opponent agnostic in how we approach games now. And it's not to say you don't look at Brisbane and say, Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam and Xavier Wilson and Payne Haas, and they're guys you need to watch out for a certain KPI, tells in the game and whatnot. But from our side of the park, from how we handle our offense, I say, well, I don't care. I don't care if it's Reece Walsh at fullback. I don't care if it's Ezra Mam at 5'8". We can take him how we want to take him, the way we would take Canberra, the way we would take Penrith. Yeah, it's an interesting take you have there, John. Opponent agnostic, and I guess I can see that there because we see a familiarity with. When I say a familiarity, no, I should say that we are seeing that the Eels are prepared to take chances in attack every week. I'd still like to see a little bit of a happy medium there, and I'll give you an example. We were making inroads into the Raiders' defence with some really adventurous play last week, and maybe suffered a little bit where the support play wasn't necessarily as good as it could have been, or the choices that were made in that final pass weren't so good. But the try that was scored off, and I think it was Sean Russell, wasn't it, that scored off Joe Ash's... Off the boot, yeah. Yep. Now, that entire set, the Eels worked in on the edge and behind the ruck for 5 tackles, drove play down to the quarter line, went left on the last. Joe Ash chipped over the top, beautifully placed, and
We saw Sean Russell win the race to the ball, the Fox being losing his feet as he seemed to be the one homing in on the ball. But to me, that was a tremendously structured set to work the play downfield and just simply go with the chip kick over the top. Again, set play that all the team knew was on the back of structured play. And I'd just like to see a little bit more of that in the Eels games. Just get that balance just a little bit better in terms of getting the win. But I'm in agreement with you about their attack is maybe opponent agnostic. And I think we just have to tweak a couple of little things around that defence out wide with our defence, just to fine tune that, because I think we're not far off delivering what the coach would want us to deliver as far as the defensive side of it. So, look, I think pretty much like you, John, I'm not looking at the Broncos and going, we play here, we play there. I think let's just play some Parramatta football. Let's get maybe that balance a little bit more towards being a tad more structured, just not throwing out all the unstructured, exciting play that we've got there, but recognise maybe when a bit of structure will come in handy in the game, like maybe straight after points, for example, get to your kick. But John, I am with hand on heart. With hand on heart, I'm going to tip an Eels win here because I think they can do it. I think the Eels can win this probably around the 28 to 24 sort of mark. I'm going to tip a big game in this from Mitch Moses on return. But when it comes to best on field, I'm gonna go a little bit unusual with this. I'm actually going to go Zach Lomax with best on field. I've just got the feeling that he had a rough week or two around Origin, and I think he's got aspects to his game that he's probably going to tidy up. And we know he's still been putting in the effort, like just a massive effort on either side of Origin. But it's just the few mistakes have come his way. So I'll tip him to be best on field. Tipping a winger to be best on field is probably a little bit wild.
Bold business, but Zach Lomax is perfectly capable of rising to that challenge. Look, I haven't looked at the betting line here, but I have no doubts that the Brisbane Broncos are pretty firm favourites, Greg. It's a home game for them. Friday night lights, they're sort of our natural habitat, isn't it? Eels have been very much at home on Sundays this year, and we go back to a more conventional Friday night game here for the first time in what feels like a long time. Well, I think that Brisbane are favourites for a good reason. I mean, that their form line reads a lot better than Parramatta's. Their talent is also that of a very good team that has been going from underperformers to perhaps finally realising their potential. So realistically, I think that they are probably going to win, but tipping a Brisbane win sucks and it's boring. So I think, look, if Parramatta win, I think there's the potential for an explosive victory here. Mitchell Moses has returned. I think that sort of harkens to the capacity for Parramatta to win by 2 or 3 tries. Traditionally, when he returns, we do see a rise out of the team. They respond very strongly to at least the first couple of games where he's back. And given the way that the team's been playing without him, I think that it's a great platform, a great vehicle for him to sort of commandeer this week. So I will go Parramatta to win 32 to 18, 14-point win there. Best on field, the return of Mitchell Moses is always an easy tip there, so I'm going to steer away from the halfback. I will go for a big game from Jack Williams. I think maybe with I know that it seems counterintuitive because Charlie plays down the right edge, but I think with Moses returning, I don't think he's going to be restricted to playing just down the right because we have Dean Hawkins playing in the other role. I think that you'll see Moses being deployed across both sides of the field and Dean being, almost his consigliere in that regard, sort of following him around and helping him out, with Moses looking to really capitalise. And then first try scorer, we will go with, keep it simple, Josh Adokar. Just nice and easy, that one there.
You know, I didn't add a first try scorer in with mine. I'm going to go with Jack Williams on that. I just think we'll hit an edge. He'll
he's going to hammer in leg speed. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, and that's part of the reason I'm tipping for a big game. He's been Mr. Fix-It for the forward pack this year, and I think that he's going to have a bit of a consistency in the back row finally after being deployed through the middle for large swathes of this season. But with the troops that have come back in Moretti and Tuivasa and Dury alongside Junior, and then obviously Jermaine's transition into the front row, he can really knuckle down on being an edge weapon. And I think that's going to be good for him to finish out this year.
Yep, sounds good, mate. Well, look, that brings us to the end of our preview. Thank you, everyone who's tuned in, no matter what platform you're listening or watching this on. Of course, don't forget, give us a follow, a like, a subscribe, whatever you need to do on the platform. That'd be much appreciated. Thank you to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Rellan and Parramatta, and of course, Para Leagues, the home of the Eels. We'll see you there Friday night from 7 o'clock for the TCT watch party. Please get in there, come in, have a good chat about the footy. We'll cheer on the Eels in that big game over the Broncos, and who knows, cheer on the win maybe as well. And John, I think that pretty much leaves us to just have one thing to say, and that's go you mighty Eels.